Hey guys, how's it going? M.K.S here, back with another video, and welcome to part one of Native American Tuesdays. Hope you enjoy it. I don't know what it was then. I didn't sleep very well last night. I had a few problems with my anxiety, to be honest. But anyway, I hope you and your families are all well out there and staying as safe as possible. They keep saying we're going to get snow here in the UK, but they keep saying that. But I think they said that since October. Maybe the northern parts of the UK will get snow. I don't know. But like Scotland, but I'm not sure. But anyway, they keep saying that for some reason. But the weather forecast keeps getting it wrong, apparently. But anyway, normally I have to wait for Facebook to upload for a while, but it was actually YouTube that took longer this time. But anyway, sometimes I wonder, like when because I have both Facebook and YouTube open at the same time, I wonder whether they're both recording. I hope they are. I hope they record as well as possible, but I hope to have at least one copy somewhere, and so I hope they record as much as possible, and I hope my ideas get shared, and then hopefully we'll make a genuinely positive difference. I suppose the most important thing is getting to put them into practice, and I've got to prioritise. But anyway, as I say, welcome to part one of Native American, or Native for short, Tuesdays for Indigenous people from all over the Americas, and my attempts to empower them, which I went through yesterday. So yeah, that's what I hope to do for most of this week. So yeah, these are pointers number 1 to 10. I think I've got the intro out of the way, but yeah, I think I'm sure if I minimize the screen, it should be recording. But sometimes I go back to it, and I think I'm sure that hasn't really played or recorded as well as I'd like or whatever. Because like if I got multiple screens open, I go onto YouTube and there's an advert, I go back to it, I'm like, wow, how's that advert still playing? So and I went back to YouTube to check, and it looked like I hadn't recorded it fully. But I hope between the two anyway, we'll record all my ideas. I don't know if I should want my ideas to be recorded sometimes, but anyway. So number 1, I would love to support Native Americans in business, entrepreneurship, or whatever you call it. I get those. I use these terms interchangeably, like business, entrepreneurship, entrepreneurism, entrepreneur, enterprise, and all these sorts of things. And I love to support them. If I could set up something called M.K.S. Enterprises after my initials, I wouldn't want to take that much money myself from it. I'd want to support groups like Indigenous people from across the Americas. And I'd love to celebrate and support and raise the profile of Native American and people from all over the Americas, entrepreneurs, and even like celebrate stories of like millionaires and that kind of thing. But also like supporting Native American entrepreneurs. I'll say Native American for sure. I mean Indigenous people from all over the Americas, especially in the future, all the way from sole traders, startups, sole traders, SMEs, and basically small and medium-sized enterprises, all the way up to bigger businesses. So businesses of all different sizes, and helping them to work together and come together as one and support each other. And I'd love for allies like myself to work together and see like, how can we help them with funding and things like that. Maybe they could have their own business and tech hubs and things like that to help them to get funding and things like that, and run businesses and that kind of thing. But as ever, I'd love to know your suggestions on how you would support Native Americans. Like I say, it'd be cool, I think, if they had their own enterprise hubs and centres and that kind of thing, business or enterprise or whatever you call them, where they can look at like getting funding, networking opportunities, teaching, training, mentorship, and that kind of thing. And moving on to number 2, I'd even love to find out stories about if there are any Native American billionaires. I know there's money and everything, but I like to think of business and things like that on Mondays and Tuesdays and Fridays, and like startups on Saturdays and Sundays. And jumped ahead of myself there, but also Native Americans in banking and that kind of thing, and how they can network together, and what they can learn from each other. Like there was something I was going to say, but I think I'll wait till point number 10 to mention that. Yeah, what they can learn from each other, how they can teach each other and train each other. And a project idea I've got, one of my cousins in America was working for I don't know what she does at the moment, but I'll have to ask her maybe. But when I speak to her, but she was working in like Teach for America. I'm not sure if she still does that, but which I think helps. I was going to say underdeprived. I do make up my own words. Underprivileged. Sorry, goodness, where I come all these terms from. Underprivileged kids in America to learn things, and I wonder if they could like teach for, or as I put it nicely and politely, please teach for Native Americans, and please train up Native Americans. I put the please in, put it in brackets or whatever, but because I like to be extra polite. Nice like that. On a serious note, it could be teaching things like business, STEM, tech, and all sorts of different areas. So yeah, I'd love to see if there are any Native Americans and Indigenous people from across the Americas in business and I know in banking as well. I know there are some in business, but how can we help more, and how can we help them to learn from each other and network together? Again, there was a point I was going to mention, but I think I'll wait till point number 10. But yeah, something to do with I'm more of a fan of investing than saving. If I get my act together, I'd learn to invest, but it is a bit scary and risky, I've got to admit. You have to step out of your comfort zone, I guess, and I like my creature comforts, I guess. But moving on, I'd say most of my money I'd give away if I don't have money. But number 3, Native Americans in tech, and also YouTube, TikTok, and that kind of thing. I'd love to support in those fields as well. So business, banking, entrepreneurship, business/entrepreneurship, banking, tech, YouTube, TikTok, and all those sorts of things. So I've already seen a few channels of Native Americans and seen a few lists of Native American YouTubers. So hopefully people out there watching this video, I'd love to encourage you to please check out like on YouTube and TikTok and on Google things about Native American entrepreneurs, helping to raise their profile, and like how banks and businesses can support them, and also how and also supporting Native American YouTubers and TikTokers like Natives React and others. I normally like to specify Native American when I say like support Native Americans, because I guess native could be native to anywhere. Like I guess white guys are native to Europe and that kind of thing, and yeah, Africans are black people are native to Africa and Australasia, I guess. But yeah, so I specify like Native American. You could say natives for short. I know there's a channel called Natives React, I'd say, but they mean Native American, but for short they say Natives React. But moving on, I wonder what the word native means to you actually on that note. Please let me know in the comments. I normally say freedom of speech, freedom of expression. Please post whatever you want in the comments, preferably politely. You don't have to, but I normally invite people to post, but then not many people seem to do so. So please do share your views if you'd be so kind, either on Facebook and or YouTube, preferably on both. But yeah, I'd love to know what you think that native means to you. Like, do you think of like Native Americans? Or do you think people are indigenous to whatever land? So you can say like native to Europe, native to Africa, Asia, or Australasia, or whatever, like Aboriginals and those type of groups. Moving on, number 4, as I say, I think it'd be cool if they networked together and had networking opportunities and things like allies who would like teach and train for Native Americans, and like those who have an experience in like business or banking or whatever it might be to go and teach, and banks, seeing how banks and others like how businesses can help with teaching, training, and that kind of thing. Also like ICT for Native Americans, basically tech generally. I mentioned yesterday about like how there's Indian country today, and funny enough, the acronym for that could be for short ICT. It's also like integrated tech or whatever. Oh no, information communication tech, sorry, something like that. But yeah, I'd love to support Native Americans in tech generally and see how they can network together, and how people, like allies, could support them, and how tech companies can get more Native Americans into tech, as well as like banks get more into business, into banking and funding Native Americans, but also giving them careers in banking, and also seeing how they can invest together, and getting support like to learn about business and things like that. I think that covers everything for point number 4. So moving on to number 5, I'd love to support them with their ambition. Generally, I know I talked about like business, banking, tech, or whatever, but I'd love to hear from Native Americans and Indigenous people in the Americas as much as possible. to hear what their goals and dreams are. Yours, if you're out there watching these videos, and how we can support them with their ambitions. Some might have ambitions to be teachers, trainers, doctors, nurses, lawyers, judges, or whatever it might be. So I'd love to support them whatever their ambitions are. I know I normally like to focus on certain themes for certain days, like business, banking, and tech on Tuesdays, I'd say. Number 6, I'd love to see Italian soccer teams work with Native Americans. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'd probably think of like Roma and Torino because it was the T. So seeing how Torino FC could have academies and sports clubs. I know I mainly say AC Milan. I'd love for AC Milan to have those academies, but given my use of alliterations, I'd love to see AC Milan have the most academies and sports clubs for Indigenous people from across the Americas, especially Native Americans, but or maybe just equally so, like one from Brazil or Argentina or whatever else. But yeah, seeing how they could fund Native Americans and how sports generally could do so. And I suppose if Italian teams, Serie A teams do it, I guess EPL, La Liga, and MLS teams will want to do so. Sorry for those who are not into soccer or whatever you want to call it. Also, Native Americans would be part of what I call the 6. So there would be Indigenous people, Andric or POC, people of colour from Africa, Australasia, the Americas, in this case the Americas, and Asia, as well as like Latin America and Ireland as well, like being part of that. So emerging market economies, Andric, all those who were colonised in this case, Native Americans as they were colonised, Indigenous people from across the Americas. So I hope they can network together with people from Africa, Asia, Australasia, and all those places I mentioned. And Latin Americans, I'd love to see how those countries could give their Indigenous people, who unfortunately become minorities where they originate from, to see what rights they can give to them. I know that like people in Europe complain about potentially becoming a minority, but I think they should spare a thought for Native Americans and Indigenous people from all over the Americas. In some cases, I think in some countries there probably aren't any Indigenous people left, and where there are, they're normally only about 2 or 3%. So I think they should be given support, and I'd love to support them to have international representation in international bodies like the UN. Things like that would be great if they had seats at the UN, like also the 6 working together generally, including giving representation for Native Americans, Indigenous people generally. And I hope they'll work hard together to achieve their goals. Although hard work is a swear word to me, or as hard as necessary or whatever. But I think that covers everything. Point number 6. But yeah, I'd love to see how sport and music and whatnot could be used to fundraise for Native Americans, and I hope Italian football takes the lead on that, because it'll be good for Italy's reputation as well, Italian football's reputation. Yeah, talking about Italy, I hope that Italy makes it to World Cup as well. So I know, but anyway, moving on, just saying, I hope there's nothing I've forgotten, but I remember there's something I was meant to say in point number 4, but I completely forgot, as it happens. Anyway, moving on, number 7, I'd love to see what Celtic could do to benefit Native Americans, and also if they can make life easier. I mentioned like a lot of times, like maybe it is too good to be true, but I like to keep hope alive. Like, what if there could be an easy way to, or even easy ways to run a business by working together, like learning from those who have already done it, avoiding their mistakes. I say if there's like teach and train for Native Americans, they could teach about like mistakes to avoid, how to run a business, what it takes, how to delegate. That sounds pretty cool. Like get other people to do the work. Sounds pretty awesome. But I don't know, maybe there is no easy way to do it, but I'd like to think there is. But you never know, I guess, unless you try. Maybe it's, if I believed in like a self-fulfilling prophecy or whatever, I'd say it's going to be easy and we're going to achieve our goals, because yeah, if I believed it, whatever I said came true or whatever, probably a lot more positive as well. But what I meant to say in point number 4 as well is, like, even though, in spite, side note, even in spite of the fact that he or she, or they let me down on a daily basis, I still love God with all my might. Well, I'm sorry, I don't want to say that. To thank God for the opportunities of making these videos and that kind of thing, for instance. And just because I want to be in a positive mood today, because it's the 18th, and that number makes me think of positives. My dad's birthday as well. So please wish my dad a happy birthday in the comments. So I hope he has a great birthday. I'm not sure if he's in the mood to do anything, because I did ask if he wanted to meet up, but I think he's just chilling at the moment. So anyway, yeah, I did mean to say that in point number 4, like perhaps, and I would have said in the intro, if I go back, it being my dad's birthday, but also in point number 4, I would have said about loving God with all my mind, heart, soul, and strength. But talking about religion, I think Native Americans and Indigenous people probably should follow whatever religion supports them the most, like funds their communities. So if mosques or churches or whichever other religious group helps them with food, medicine, water, shelter, training, teaching, entrepreneurship, supporting them, funding them, donating to their communities and things like that, I think that's what they should probably follow the most. Maybe, again, what do you think? I'd love to know. Especially from any Native Americans out there, I'd love to know what you think. I'm a little bit too harsh, but I'm giving free support at the end of the day, or trying to. So I hope these videos do make a genuine difference. I hope they share the ideas that inspire people to say, yeah, I want to check out like Native American businesses. What can I buy from them? How can I support them? How can they get more funding and that kind of thing? And how can we make life easier for Native Americans? So nice thought of an easy life, but maybe life will be boring without a challenge. And on that note, moving on, number 8, as I said, I'd love to see what music, sport, and other sort of areas could do to fundraise through different songs and music generally, and sport and events and tournaments, tourneys as I call them, and things like that could do to fundraise for Native Americans, and what groups could support them, what potential allies could support them. I'd love to encourage my fellow POC colour to support groups like Native Americans. I often mention like controversially, I don't believe we should join militaries, but instead support groups like Native Americans. Fight the power, as they say. Something like that anyway. But yeah, I'd love for POC to support Native Americans, like invest in their communities, support their businesses and whatnot. And hopefully they can achieve a lot more by working together and say positive things about each other. I was thinking like, what if people, again, I know I'm going a bit off topic here because I'm thinking about Native Americans, but similar with like people from Africa, what if they always said positive things about each other? Similar with people in Asia, what if they always say positive things about each other and try to lift each other up rather than bring each other down? Yeah, working together against white supremacy, like uniting together against fascism, nationalism, and that kind of thing. Number 9, I'd love to support, as I say, Native Americans with their ambitions, aims and ambitions, goals and whatnot, in business, banking, or whatever areas they might be. As I say, becoming nurses, doctors, firemen, police people, members of the judiciary, legal system, whatever it might be. And I'd love to read from and hear from Native Americans about what their ambitions are. In the future, I'd love to interview Native Americans to say, what are your ambitions and how can allies or wannabe allies, in my case, like me, do to support you. I'd love to hear from like business people, like what does it take to run a business and how important is planning. That's one I've often wondered. I've heard of a black entrepreneur from South Africa who says he had an audience and he said, motivational speaker Fusi Mbakweyo, I know I mentioned it a while back, but he said, how many people here have a business plan? And they put their hand up and he said, good, rip up your business plan and in fact burn it and watch it burn. And he said in the 30s they made business plans and actually apparently it was the same system that got them into trouble in the first place that they used. I'm not sure if I agree, but that was the point. A lot of people say business plans are really important, but people who have run a business will obviously know what it takes. And some might have said, I've run a business without having a plan and it's worked or whatever, but I know they say if you don't plan, you fail. But this guy was saying, you obviously you just start and make plenty of mistakes and learn from your mistakes, learn from your failings and things like that. And I actually meant to say it again in point number 8, and I forgot, I think. I know I said it in point number 7, but I was going to say it in point number 8 because I normally turn it from hate to love, and I say, again, in spite of the fact that God lets me down on a daily basis, I still love him or her or them with all my might, heart and soul, at least for now. But yeah, I wanted to thank God for these opportunities and making these videos and sharing my ideas and that kind of thing, and positive things in the world, like company. Even though I find people and even animals, but especially people, can be annoying, I think without people or animals or whatever, the world would be a lot more boring and probably very, I don't get lonely very often. Sometimes I can enjoy my own company, probably some might say a bit too much, but I guess I would after a while. So yeah, I often think like if I lived on my own, if I had noise or something like that, I'd be nervous. Like sometimes when I have the house to myself, I'm like, if I hear a creak, I'm like, oh, what's that? But let's say I lived in a planet, heaven forbid, all by myself, So I was trying to sing all by myself. Sorry. I often think, like, what if I sang and then it was really cringe-worthy? I thought, oh. But it would be a nightmare to be on a planet all by myself. So I do appreciate people, and especially animals. Sometimes I jokingly say, like, surely aliens invading and sure AI could not make things much worse. But famous last words. But God willing, Godspeed, all will be well. And number 10, I love to support young entrepreneurs, youngpreneurs from Native American communities and all over the Americas with momentum, especially in America itself. And there's a Native American tribe, that's one thing I was thinking about earlier, which gets, apparently, I think it's between, I know I mentioned it yesterday, I think it's between 100 to even 200,000 for graduating from high school or something like that. And I was thinking, if they took that money and put it into saving, investing, because I'm a big fan of investing rather than saving. I think saving is very uninspiring, and it also, in the longer run, I don't think it benefits you as much. But if they put that money into an investment fund, I think it would probably go a lot further, and 18-year-olds probably won't know what to do with that money, and they'll probably just spend money on nice cars, houses, girlfriends, or whatever else. But if they put that money into a trust fund and they reinvest it, I think it would probably go a lot further. But again, I'd love to know what you think. And I guess people who have run a business and or learn to invest or whatever might know a lot better. I mean, some people say business is not as easy as you think, and it's not the path for everyone. But yeah, I think if they invested that or had a trust fund, like even in a Schwab account, I'm promoting Schwab because he's a fellow dyslexic, but if they did that, I mean, they could use BlackRock or Vanguard or whatever, but if they put their money into that kind of thing, it could probably go a lot further than just sitting in a bank or being spent, even worse, probably being spent on like fast money, as I say, and big houses and things like that, which cost money for a mortgage, like the financial guru Robert Kiyosaki. Not everyone agrees with him, I'm sure, but I'm sure there's lots of people who doubt him and think he's a fraud or whatever. But he says the difference between a liability and an asset is a liability takes money out of your account whether you work or not. So if you and your partner stop working, as he put it, a liability will eat you and will make you have to go to work quicker, whereas an asset can help you to retire quicker. So you can make money on your asset rather than your assets, rather than your income. So you can retire a lot quicker and that kind of thing. But basically, it rises in value. But like a house has a mortgage and cars you have to pay for, like fuel, and pay when they go wrong, when they break down and things like that. I know it takes you from A to B and it saves you time. So in that regard, it's an asset, and a house is a nice place to live in. But a house that you rent out puts money in your bank every month or whatever, whereas a house that you live in costs money through mortgages and things like that, and rates, rents, and that kind of thing. So heating, electricity, and all these sorts of things take money out of your bank account, but you pay for them through assets. So he says, whenever I want to buy a liability, I buy an asset. But I'd love to know what you think. You think he's a fraud, or you think that's a good bit of advice, and maybe Native Americans could benefit from finding out about, listening to and learning from Robert Kiyosaki and people like that. So when they graduate, they get, I think that's when they turn 18. So it's quite a lot of money for an 18-year-old, but a lot of responsibility for an 18-year-old, I guess. As someone said, if someone gave me I think this white guy was saying it on this documentary where I heard that on YouTube, my favourite place. He said, if someone gave me 100,000 or a couple of 100,000 when I was 18, I'd probably be dead very quickly, because obviously it's been on smoking, drinking, drugs, and all these things. Potentially, you can go down the wrong path. But also, I'm not a huge fan of academia. I mean, Robert Kiyosaki, Simon Squibb, and many others say academia, it doesn't teach you about money, and that's on purpose. And they want you to work for the elites rather than learn to build your own business and invest, so you can become financially free, financially independent and financially free. But again, I'd love to know what you think. And I think if they said when you turn 18, whether you graduate or not, we're going to have this trust fund for you, I think that would be a better way. But that's my personal opinion. You can agree or disagree. And on that note, please do let me know what you think in the comments. I must stop laughing. And peace and love.